Thanks again for joining me on the show. I'm glad you're here. Today's guest is a noted chef. He's going to tell us how he's solving today's most pressing restaurant challenges, including rising costs, labor, and of course, shrinking margins. We're going to talk about how he balances the highest quality ingredients and labor-intense processes to be proud and passionate about what they're serving and preserve margins and profit. Adding catering as an additional profit center without compromising the guest dining experience. Live music within his restaurants as a draw that brings people in. How to do it and what to do, as well as when you'll know when it's time to expand and grow your business, and how to be in 2 or 3 locations at once. Stay tuned and listen to Chef Giovanni Mauro. If you'd like to leave us a review, I would certainly appreciate it on your favorite podcast player. Not only will it help our ratings, but it'll also introduce us to other hospitality professionals, restaurateurs, and general leaders like yourself. So please leave us a review. We'd certainly appreciate that. Now, on with the episode.
You're tuned in to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. Powerful ideas to rock your restaurant. Here's your host, Roger Beaudoin.
Lily's Fresh Pasta refuses to compromise on quality. This family-owned business, built on time-honored traditions passed down from Lily to her son Antonio, lives on with every batch. Lily's Fresh Pasta is made to European standards using 100% non-GMO, glyphosate-free Italian unbleached wheat. Lily's is served in the finest restaurants in America. I've had Lily's Fresh Pasta many times, and I can tell you it's always molto buono. Elevate your menu. Serve Lily's Fresh Pasta in your restaurant. Ask your local food service representative or call Antonio directly at 603-818-2100 and be sure to follow Lily's on Instagram at Lily's Fresh Pasta. Welcome back, everyone, to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. So glad you're here. Chef Gio, welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for being here. Now, you have a proud family legacy. Your mom's in the restaurant business, and she still is, and now you have 3 locations in Las Vegas. Where did it all begin to? Did you start as a teenager? Did you work for your mom at any point? Did you cook in the kitchen with her? What's the backstory?
So the backstory is that my family, and the older I get and the more I realize how tremendously fortunate we were, was very much into food, all aspects of it, but really never in the restaurant business. So we lived in Southern California after I moved back from Sicily, and I took a job as a pizza maker. At 14 years old, I started making pizzas. And it was a little too soon, but I was a big guy and we just got away with it. It was back in the days when it wasn't such a sacrilege to have kids start working.
Not at an early age, yeah.
At an early age. And my parents were very encouraging. They took me all the time, and I started 6 days a week making pizzas in a Italian restaurant called Volatile in Whittier, California. And my parents didn't end up opening a restaurant until 91 or 92 when they moved here to Las Vegas. And they did it because they saw how much I was loving it, and they loved food, and they were semi-retired. And so they thought it would be a good pastime to open a restaurant. Little did they know
what was involved and what they were getting themselves into. Yeah.
But we grew with the town when we got here, and I've been here on and off, but when we got here, it was 427,000, and now we're close to 2 million, I think maybe even over 2 million. And so we grew with the town, and the town treated us very well. And Nora's is the name of my mother, and the name of the restaurant has really grown to have quite a legacy. And as a matter of fact, where I opened up Monzu, which is my full-time, full-service restaurant, is where the original Nora's used to be.
Oh, I see.
Business grew the location.
Mm-hmm.
And so the family bought a plot of land and built a building, and it still sits there. And it's literally 90 yards away from here. And we knew that someone was going to grab this location, capitalize on 25 plus years of operating an Italian restaurant here. So we decided to keep it in the family, and I would take it over and do my own thing and open it up as a Monzu. So my brother runs the day-to-day at Nora's, and my family still owns it, and we own this one, and then we have the 3 pizza shops, old school pizzeria.
Do you cross-promote these locations, or do you compete with Nora's at all?
Nora's, we're so fortunate. It's such a workhorse that a lot of times we're getting spillover. because there's so much business, especially during the holidays or wedding season. They have a few banquet rooms, but those get filled so quickly and then they spill over to us. It helps us a lot when honestly that building could have been bigger. It's nice that we can capitalize on all that business and help each other. I help with other things like support. Yay, Nora's.
Here we go. When did you decide to start your first restaurant when you came back to Las Vegas from California? How old were you? And tell us about that process. Tell us anything that you recall from starting the first one.
So my first restaurant ended up in not a positive way. And the idea, I always felt that Nora's was part of my restaurant as well. Growing up, your parents are running it, you're helping to run it, your brother's in the kitchen, and your brother's other brother is in the front of the house. And it's a very family thing, right? So there was always that connection, that feeling. And my first career choice was in music, which didn't turn out. I put a limit, an age limit. And then I said, if it's not going to happen by this age, and that age for me was 32, then I'm going to devote myself to my other love, which is food. And my parents supported me immensely. And what I did is I came to Nora's, I helped expand the place and helped get systems and just did everything I could to make it as successful as possible. And then I decided, okay, now it's time to do my own thing. And I did something with my brother, and it was called Nora's Wine Bar, and it was on the other side of town. And I was young, I was very hard-headed. I made some very dumb choices, and then 2008 hit, and that was
the recession. Yeah.
That was a hard situation in Vegas with the real estate market. And it was tough to get through, and we ended up not being able to get through it. They say that bankruptcies and divorces are the hardest thing to go through as a human being, and bankruptcy was pretty bad. It took me a good 6 years to recover emotionally.
And you bounced back. Yeah, what a challenging time, but it didn't deter you, and here you are.
Yeah, it didn't. I had a gentleman, Ross was his name, old school guy from Southern California. And he said, you have two choices now that you're at this stage in your life. You could either use it as a springboard and go up, or you're just going to go down. So you make the choice. He said it to me just like that. I don't think he even realizes how powerful of a statement that was. But at that point, those words, I made the choice. Okay, this is going to be my springboard. I don't care how hard it is, but I'm going to recover. And I went into hibernation. I went into North Las Vegas in a very underserved community. It was right by the Air Force, and everything was cookie cutter. And I said, I'm going to do an old school pizzeria here, and that's what I decided to name it. And I said, I want the connection with the guest. I want to be making all the pizzas, and that's what I did. And I ran away from having to see anybody. People say, oh, it's a business. You got to look at it very objectively. It's just black and white dollars and cents, and if it's in the red, it's in the red. But that's not the way my brain works. To me, it was a huge failure. And the other comment that got me through that was the guy said, his name was Pat Baldy.
Uh-huh.
He said, if you think that this is ever going to go away, you're lying to yourself. It'll always be a scar. It'll heal, but you just got to keep on going. If you're just going to sit and wait for it to get better, it's never going to get better. So just accept it and just go on. And that's what I did. Those two statements made me find a failing Cuban sandwich shop. And she was in trouble. She was 3 months behind in the lease. And I negotiated with the landlord. Said, look, I don't have the money, but give me a chance and I'll catch you up in your lease. You won't lose a dime, and give me a chance to do this. And the guy took pity on me. I don't know that anybody. I was very fortunate, and nickel and dimed it, plowed my way through it. And it took the better part of 3 years before we started seeing any sort of profit, and not easy on the marriage either.
The stresses, I can only imagine.
Yeah. Luckily I have a wife who wanted to kill me, but was still, okay, do what you need to do. But she was, okay, when are you getting out? Go get a job. I'm never going to make the kind of money to recover if I go get a 9 to 5. I have to make this work. I don't have a choice. It has to work. And she's, how many years? As many years as it takes. If it takes 10 years, it'll take 10 years. I don't know what to tell you, but I have to make this work. And it did. And it did. And I don't recommend it. I'm not saying that's the right way to do it, but that's the way it worked out for me.
When did you know it was time to grow that business and expand? Because now you've got multiple locations.
Yeah. And the verdict is still out on whether or not that was the right choice. Okay. So I made a calculated guess, as you do in business, right?
Yes.
In the middle of pandemic, I said the quick casual market over the past decade, this is in 2020, right? Over the past decade is
Yes.
the only sector that has been climbing steadily up. And I said, pandemic, I believe, is going to just solidify that drive towards quick casual
Makes
and old
sense. Yes.
quick casual business. So let me just, open two more. I had luckily a friend that wanted to help me get them open. And that's what I did. Again, I made several mistakes. I made them bigger, and now the two new ones don't feel as quick casual as they should. But the other side of it is, once we came out of the pandemic, I couldn't have been more wrong because people want to be served. At the end of the day, they want to sit down and they want someone to take care of them and be hospitable. That's been my finding. I'm sure there's people that disagree with me. Good, but that's been my experience. And I saw it with our full service at Monzu. I was really worried about whether this place was going to get hit hard. I said, people aren't going to want to pay the prices anymore. They're so used to picking up from a drive-through and taking it home. And all of that is true. But what I really found is that people wanted a place to sit down and meet their friends and have a bite to eat or a glass of wine or a nice cocktail and really socialize and really make connections, one-on-one connections. And so that's where we are. I believe that's where the market is now. And that's focusing on changing the two new locations to full service for that very reason.
Will they mirror Manzu to some extent? You've got pretty extensive service
No,
there.
no. Monzu is very detailed oriented and take a lot of pride in the old traditional ways of serving fork, knife, water. Very the stuff that everybody learned in books and the right way to serve and all that. I think old school needs to be more approachable. It needs to be more. I always think of. I'm going to date myself, although I saw it as reruns, but I always think of Mel's Diner.
Oh, yes. I used to watch that show when I was a kid, and that dates me too. Keep going.
But that's
Yep.
like the feeling that I think old
Mm.
school, the pizza place needs is much more casual and just, hey, let me feed you. What do you want? Still open arms, still friendly, of course, but none of the bells and whistles. I don't think that the consumer there is looking for that. They're looking for good food and to be treated respectfully and very easy and casual kind of experience. So it'll be different.
Do you find it challenging to maintain consistency and to manage multiple properties? And what are some of those challenges? Is it staffing? Is it being in 2 or 3 places at once? And like I said, growing loyal, regular clientele and all those things that enter into it. There's so many details to one restaurant, let alone 3, 4, 5 restaurants.
Yeah, it's pretty overwhelming for a single guy to do by himself, especially. So I don't know how detailed you want me to get with numbers, but the reality of it is that if your sales aren't there, then you can't hire the talent to
Correct.
support, and then you end up being a lone wolf, which is a predicament I've been in the past couple of years with the two new locations not performing as robustly as they need to be. And not that they're in trouble, but they're not where I want them to be yet. So it takes a lot. I decided to make a conscientious choice and open up a commissary kitchen because I knew that I would lose control of certain things as we were expanding. So I said, what is
Yes,
the
I
thing
see that.
that's very important to me? And then my dough is the most important. So the number one thing is we're going to make the dough at a central location and divvy it out so there's no ands, ifs, or buts. The dough is always the same. With that, I went a little bit overboard and started doing everything at the commissary. That didn't pencil out financially. So one of the transitions is to have certain things go back to the unit level and being prepared at the unit level to lower the cost of the commissary operations. So that's what I'm working on now. And again, you want to have an interview in a year, I'll let you know how it goes. I'm assuming that it's going to go well, but you never know.
You strike me very much as a perfectionist, and you take great pride in your processes and in the quality and the refusal to compromise. So that comes with a cost and a price, of course. But you also have a philosophy of training, I'm sure, that passes this sort of culture and feeling on to the guest. You want to make sure that every new hire is embracing how you do things and that they're sharing those stories with your guests and all those sort of things. You want to talk about onboarding and staff training and your company culture overall?
That is the biggest challenge. That is
Uh-huh.
the absolute biggest challenge for me.
All right.
And there's a lot of people that do it successfully. My whole basis is human connection. I don't have the people that have been with me the longest are not employees to me. They're part of my family.
Yes, absolutely.
And they treat me the same way. And if they need to yell at me, they'll yell at me, and so be it. And that's just the way it is. And through that, I find a lot of comfort and trust. The systems are of course important. How you onboard and the checklists and the recipe books and all, they're all important because they're tools. But unless you have the commitment of adherence to those recipes on paper, you don't have anything. So the number one thing is, do I have a connection with these folks? I would rather have, let's say you have a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being a rock star and 1 being someone that shouldn't be in the position they're in. Okay. And
Of course.
and look, there's people that are, talent isn't in a void. There's people that are talented at one thing and are not talented at a certain other task. So putting people in the right position is also part of the strategy, right?
Yes.
I would have, if you do a blanket thing, I would rather have a 6, a 7 that listens and is committed and their heart is in it than a 10 rock star that is
On their own
temperamental,
program. Yeah.
on their own program. You don't know how committed they are. You don't know how long they're going to stay with you. You don't know what they're doing behind your back, and that you can't run anything with that. That's not, that is what my whole focus is. How do I surround myself with people that there is a win-win in it for both of us and where we have a connection? I get along with them, they get along with me. The old adage I heard, you don't have to get along, you just have to know how to work together. No, I need to get along with the people around me. When I walk through the building, I want to know that we have a rapport, that there's a good working emotional condition. And I think that translates to the guest immensely. I think that people can feel whether a location has that human connection or it's just cookie cutter, whatever the phrases are, all the cliches of, would you like to upsize that or whatever. I need that. But it's harder. It's harder to do it my way.
Vegas is such a big hospitality town. It's a big restaurant town. Do you find it hard to compete salary-wise or wage-wise with the resorts and the hotels and that sort of thing?
Absolutely.
Are those the glamorous jobs? And it's like, how do you attract people?
Yeah, it's always the grass is greener on the other side is always a thing. And I don't befault anybody. You get a lot of job security when you're with the big casinos, but the other side is that you truly are a number there. You're not going to have those emotional connections. And so I think that side of it has helped me a little bit.
Yes.
The other side of it is the ease. You park your car, you come right into the building. You have to get to work 5 minutes before. You work at a major casino. It takes you an hour on the front end and an hour in the back end.
Probably have to get on the shuttle bus and park way far away and all that kind of stuff. And that's a hassle. And it's, yeah, but those are unionized jobs, I'm sure. Are they all unionized? Yeah. They are.
Yeah. And you know what's really weird though? I find that people in the union are more comfortable financially, but I don't see the jobs satisfaction that I
Yeah,
would
the
expect.
human element is missing. And like you said, you're more of a number than you are an individual, a person, someone who's contributing to the greater good, that really cares, that has opportunity to move up if you are one of those 6 and 7s that comes with the right approach and the right attitude. And then you want to keep those people, you want to get them to the next level, give them opportunities as best you can.
It's interesting to me because the whole experience of the whole experiment, if you will, and I guess it's a complete institution now of unions, would lead people to believe that this job satisfaction would be
Mm,
just skyrocket. And
sure.
again, their financial and their comfort level at home because of the extra money and that's wonderful. But I'm just surprised that they're not as happy at work as you would think. And I think that translates to I see it in Vegas. People talk about the fact that Vegas is not the same town as it was in the 70s and 80s, that you used to go in a casino, everybody used to know your name, you were treated with a big hug and a smile, and that certainly is not the case now, unless you're ultra connected and VIP
Right.
host high roller and treat you a certain way. But if you're Joe Schmo like me and go into a casino, you're just a number and you're paying $100 for a steak that sure it's good, but man, I could go to a local level and have it half the price and
And
even
get
better.
better hospitality because the
Exactly.
approach, that makes absolute perfect sense. You care so much. We mentioned this earlier about the quality and the process, but with rising costs and volatile markets and shrinking margins, how do you maintain your profit margins? Restaurants sell tons of fried food and your customers love it, but the hassles, hazards, and mess of fryer oil, cleaning hoods, and all that grease, well, you can forget all that with Restaurant Technologies. They deliver your oil, filter it, monitor usage, collect and recycle your waste cooking oil. Their AutoMist system automates your hood and flue cleaning, eliminating the fire risk. As a Restaurant Technologies customer, you'll also save 10 to 15% in your insurance premiums. Plus, get a bonus for new customer referrals. Get started at rti-inc.com or call 866-399-3639. Listen, don't lose birthday business to your competition. People celebrate birthdays 7 days a week. The check averages are high, and when they have fun in your place, they'll come back again. Talk to my buddy Dyson. He's an operator also, just like you and me, but now he runs a done-for-you birthday club. Go to jointhebirthdayclub.com/birthday rockstar. It's a piece of cake.
That's a very good question. I wish my wife were here. She would tell you how unsuccessful I'm being at that lately. But it's the restaurant business has always been a penny business. It's not
No
a dollar.
doubt.
And anybody that thinks that it's a dollar business, and I've made this mistake, and friends of mine have made, you're in a delusional state. You have to look at the pennies, and now more than ever. And it's worrisome to raise prices, but everything is going up. I try not to go crazy.
And not lose the value to your regulars and to your customers. They have to still feel like they're getting what they're paying for and that the service is there, the quality is there, but they're not taking advantage of. But everyone knows that prices are rising and you need to communicate that to your customers, I'm sure. But you're right, there is a delicate balance there for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's just eggs. Everybody's been talking about eggs,
Exactly.
right? Lately. But we just stopped buying eggs from our purveyors and have literally gone to different stores, and me and my wife have
To the
purchased eggs until they come down again. So you have to do what it takes to just make things worse and recognize look, the egg thing we all knew was going to be a temporary thing. It wasn't going to be high forever, which is just the market. That's what it did. And you just have to make adjustments, temporary adjustments, recognize what is a temporary cost hike and make adjustments for that product until it comes back down. And then it's business as usual.
right.
But then the things that take a hike that are permanent. And I find that is the harder thing to overcome. We live in a state, I think there's 5 states where minimum wage for tipped employees and non-tipped employees is the same. And that is extraordinarily difficult, not because
Yes.
of my margins. People think that it has to do with me wanting to make more profit when I say this, and it couldn't be further from the truth. And it couldn't be that I want my team to make money. They're not here for their good looks. They're here to make money. I love that. And we do a good job and we get rewarded by money. However, I have 32 cents on the dollar that I can spend on labor. That's the formula. So if I got to pay one group more, that means that I can not pay as much to the other group. And that other group is the kitchen. So the people that are responsible for making the food, the whole reason you get in your car and you go out is to eat. So those people end up being the least well compensated.
Working under more difficult conditions, the heat of the kitchen, the stress and the high volume and the care to detail and attention. It's a difficult thing to work in the kitchen, no question.
All of it. And I'm not saying that dealing with the public and being a server.
It has its own challenges, but sure.
It's very challenging. But the thing about it is, man, I would love to just be able to pay my guys in the kitchen more. I would just love it. And I see, and I hope none of my team members get mad at me, but they're walking out with a lot of money in tips. And wouldn't it be great if the back of the house gets to share a little bit? And we do a minimal tip out for the kitchen, but
still
to take a lot of tips away from the front and give it to the back, that's not fair either. I can't do that.
And that's one of the biggest challenges, though, is paying the actual equal minimum wage when someone's already making $30, $40, $50 an hour with gratuities. It doesn't make sense. And I've been on the board of directors for our state restaurant and lodging association for years, and that's a constant fight with the legislature to maintain that tip credit where we can pay half the minimum wage. And it's constantly readdressed every year. And some of them just don't understand these people are making really good money already. Yeah, it's just a disparity.
For some reason, people think that as an owner, you say this and you're trying to make more money as the owner. That's not it.
No.
That is not it. I just want to pay my guys in the back more.
Yeah. Do right by the people that do right by you.
32 cents on the dollar. That's high for some people, but that's what my budget is, 32%. And if I got to pay these guys more, I have to pay these guys less. It's just simple arithmetic. It's not like it's rocket science. It's just basic math.
For sure. You also have a catering and group reservation business. Does that ever detract, or is it hard to balance that with regular service so the two don't impact each other?
Yeah, it can be. If I have huge events, then I might shut down one or even two locations and have that staff go over to do the events. But mostly it doesn't. I'm pretty fortunate with the staff I have. We're able to just knock it out. And it's not like that component is so huge. It's just like an auxiliary thing. And it might get to that level. And if it does, great. We do have the team that can handle it. But I incorporate a little prep to different areas, whether it's the commissary or here at the restaurant. If we divvy up the work amongst 12 people, then it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. So that's just been my strategy.
You're also doing quite a bit with live music and jazz, which was quite impressive. Does that happen during dinner service, or is it after hours so people don't linger longer just sitting there like listening to the music? How does that work for you?
Man, you know a lot about me. I'm starting to think maybe I'm doing too much, because I do. I've got a lot on my plate.
You got a lot of balls in the air for sure, Gio.
Yeah, the way you're describing it, I'm like, wow, that's a lot. Maybe I should cut down a little bit. So, yeah, as I said, music was my first passion. My wife, through music, her full-time job is she's a freelance musician, and she does great at it.
She get up on the stage at Manzu?
Yeah, she'll do a couple of evenings.
I'm kidding. Yeah, nice. She must enjoy that.
She does it as a favor to me, really, because she's used to being in very theatrical kind of experiences, stage audiences over there and full band and very controlled. Singing at a restaurant is very casual for a musician. So we do it. We started at 8:30, the music, and I don't know why I changed it. I don't remember, but it used to start at 9, and that worked out better. And the reason why, so here's a mistake people make. Let's have music on, in my estimation, okay? But I'm going to talk like an old man, like I know what I'm talking about.
Of course. Please share.
Tuesdays are slow. Let's put music on and draw people in. Horrible approach. because it costs so much money to bring the band in. You're not making any money as it is. What are you doing? You think you're gonna do the math, and how much more business do you need to do to actually pay for that band? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And plus, people don't naturally want to go out and quote unquote party on a Tuesday. So instead, have the music on an already busy night. People want to go out on Fridays and Saturdays, and they add it. But the challenge is a lot of people come in at 7 o'clock, 5 o'clock. They don't want music. So what I did is I put it on later. 8:30 is what I've been doing. Really, 9 or 9:30 would be even better. And then people can come in at 8, have their first course or second course, and then stay longer for the music and have a second round. And that's worked out really nice for us. And that's my strategy. And then Fridays and Saturdays have bled into the rest of the week. So you look at that as the most business, then it just kind of it rose the other days.
Yeah, I had a chance to look at your website, and one, it's beautiful, it's elegant, it draws you in, but it's clear that you've used professional photography. You can literally taste the drinks and the food. It's really well done. Do you recommend that? Do you have a professional person that you work with?
Yeah, one of the things my mother always said is you eat with your eyes first.
For sure. Yeah, that's
And
evident.
and then I think this goes without saying, but maybe someone needs to hear it. We live in a world where your website, your digital presence has to reflect what you do. I've made that mistake where I thought it could just be whatever, and then people can taste the food. They're not going to come and taste the food. If your digital presence isn't up to par, you're not getting them through the door. And that's just the reality of how things are at this point. It's like being back in the 80s and not having a telephone and thinking you're going to have a delivery business. It's just not going to happen. Just because it worked in the 60s, you have to invest in that. And one of my friends when I was younger, was a mentor to me. But one of the things he says, and have it in the back of my head, is if you spend money on what the guest feels and touches, and it'll come back to you. And so that's the same thing with that digital presence. You have to spend the money there because people are going to get that, and they're going to come and visit you. The trick, though, is it has to be real, because if you portray yourself with stock photos, and then they come in and it's a complete different experience than what you're advertising, you're really shooting yourself in the foot in a very bad way. So one of my policies is never stock photos. Professional, it's got to be my food. It's got to be the way we do it. It might not look as good as something that you get on the stock photo sites, but I want it to be real. When people walk in, I want them to say, oh yeah, this is what I saw. This is what I was expecting. I think that's very important, the sincerity there.
I found it to be a very positive impression. I think it's very well done. So you're doing a great job there. As far as the digital strategy, you're also doing quite a bit with social media. Is that something that's done in-house, or is your PR agency helping with that? Who handles your social strategy?
So I have a person. It took me quite a while to find him. And I think so. And thank you for allowing me to share all this. This is awesome. Like,
Oh, you're very welcome.
I don't get a chance to talk about these things, but I went through quite a few social media people, and I finally found this gentleman, Bronson. And the thing that just love about him is how he photographs my food, is how I see my food in my head before I ever played it, if that makes sense.
That's quite a connection.
And so when that happened, I knew I had the right guy.
Oh, yeah.
I have had photographers that have taken pictures of my food, and I'm like, that food looks nothing like what's in my head. And it doesn't look, because they're seeing it differently. It doesn't translate to the picture. It doesn't look even what it looks like in reality, because they're seeing it so differently. And that's the artistry of photography, right? So you want to find someone that connects with what you're doing. And the same thing we have a wonderful working relationship with Authentic. And I think it was 5 PR companies we went through until we found someone that we connected with at a level where it just felt good. It felt right. And it's awesome. So I think that but again, doesn't this go right back to what I was talking about with the employees?
Fit is very important.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I really just
No
I
rock
really,
stars on their own agenda.
I really need that personal
Mm,
connection and
that
that
makes perfect sense.
that camaraderie with whomever I'm working with, whether it's vendors, whether it's suppliers, whether it's guests, employees. That's the way I operate. And knowing that makes me operate, safeguards me from getting in a situation that doesn't work for me.
It's a business of relationships at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day.
Agreed. 100%. Agreed. Yeah.
Do you spend most of your time in the kitchen? Do you spend most of your time overseeing operations, moving around from store to store? Tell us about a typical day for you.
I spend time in a lot of conversations with people that either are vendors or help like the PR company or employees. And we do experimenting. Maybe I get in the kitchen 3 times a week to do different things, but I'm constantly, I don't have a structure like a structured line check, but I'm constantly, the second I'm in the building, I'm constantly looking and tasting and making sure everything's fine. And we talk about things. And so I'm much more on the administrator side. I view my job as I see an orchestra leader as a conductor. A conductor can maybe play several instruments that are in the orchestra, but if he's conducting a piece, he's not playing in the orchestra as well. It's an impossibility to do. And being a leader, I have to step away just a little bit to make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And that, again, that's the way I see it. There's chefs that do it differently, that they have to have their hands on every single dish. I admire it, but I believe that's limiting. I don't know how you empower others, and I don't know how you keep an eye on everything if you're focused on running a particular section. I can't do it. It makes me crazy. As a matter of fact, because I own the restaurant, I'm on the grill and I'm worried about the door wait and how long cocktails are taking and how long the salad stays. It's impossible. It's just my brain can't handle all of that. But if I step back, if I'm on expo, I can, hey guys, take care of this expo real quick. I'm going to go check on the front door. Or, hey, take care of the salad station needs help. I'm going to go help the salad station get out of the weeds. And it gives you that flexibility and that.
I'm really glad you shared because you defined leadership versus management, and I'm glad you brought up the word empowerment versus delegation. You need to trust in your people, like you said. You need to give them some additional responsibility and trust that they'll use good judgment to help run the business as if you would, and then oversee versus micromanage every little detail. So I think you got the right formula.
Yeah, and this is not to say that when you first bring someone on, you should just give them free reign.
Not right away.
Tell you that I'm a control freak. When you first start working with me, I am not easy to handle because I'm going to be on top of you until I know that you understand what I'm tasting. Once I have confidence that you are going to execute things in my vision,
Yes.
then you're good. Then I'm not going to baby you. I'm going to expect you to do your thing and do it well. And I expect it. I've been accused of training generals and very few soldiers, and that's fine. I want them all to be generals in the kitchen. I want people to have autonomy, and I want them to feel empowered, and I want them to feel good about what they do.
Chef, I appreciate our conversation. I enjoyed talking to you today. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for all the wonderful questions. Thanks for allowing me to share. This was wonderful. I really enjoyed it.
Doing what you're doing. You're offering a tremendous service. You're uplifting people that work for you. You care about quality. You're putting out amazing product, and you've built a following. So I wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you.
That was the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. Thank you so much to our audience for tuning in. Thanks to our sponsors this week. Can't wait to see you all in the next episode. Stay well, stay tuned, and I'll see you then. Listen, what would it feel like to lower your operating costs, double your sales, lower staff turnover, create raving fans, and design a menu that literally prints money? Our online restaurant training system will teach you and your staff to rock your restaurant and transform your business. Head on over to restaurantrockstars.com. It'll take you less than 5 minutes to get started, You've got this.
Thanks for listening to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. For lots of great resources, head over to restaurantrockstars.com. See you next time.